Hello, my audience. Happy feast. And we start our top stories for today with current affairs in Libya. Air Force bombed the so-called Shura Council of Benghazi terrorist sites in Souq al-Hout, Asabiri and Al-Lithi district. This came in the light of continued violent clashes waged by the ground forces using various kinds of weapons against terrorist groups in those districts, in addition to Al-Hawari area under airstrikes launched by Air Force fighter jets in these hubs. Terrorist groups targeted Bohdima neighborhood in Benghazi by 3 mortar shells. One of them fell on a mosque during Eid prayer without any casualties. On Thursday, a shell was fired towards the funeral of Staff Sergeant Martyr Salam Naili. Then it missed its target, killing 1 civilian. And now, still in Libya, a photographer launched an initiative in Bayda city to spread the smile in the first day of Eid al-Fitr, as he published 100 photos of young people smiling, and their motto is, because it's the wa, we will face the cannon with flowers, death with life, and wa with a smile. The owner of the initiative, Hassan al-Matrih, said this idea began by publishing an album of 30 photos, noting that it has been developed in recent time to reach 100 photos published on the occasion of Eid al-Fitr. The Security Council called on all parties concerned in Sikhirat agreement to support this agreement, not to disrupt it under any circumstances, and finally not to breach any provisions of its clauses. The Council also renewed its, in a press release published today, its call for all parties to the need to participate in the political dialogue and unite in order to support the agreement. Moreover, the Security Council welcomes the signing of Libyan parties' majority on the political agreement. In the meantime, the Council stressed its support for the formation of a national unity government in Libya, saying it will help in the reconstruction of the country and meeting the growing terrorist threat in Libya and its neighboring countries. And about the reaction of the EU diplomatic sources said the EU foreign ministers will discuss next Monday in Brussels with the United Nations envoy to Libya, Bernardino Leon, the possibility of imposing sanctions against those who disrupt the dialogue. The sources noted that the European Council will discuss during the meeting the recent developments of political dialogue between the Libyan parties under the auspices of the UN to find a peaceful solution to the political and security crisis in the country. Moreover, the talks will tackle means of ensuring and supporting the peace process in Libya. Russian President Vladimir Putin and Italian Prime Minister Matteo Renzi expressed their hope in the success of consolidated efforts of the international community for settlement of crises in Libya and Syria. Moreover, they discussed during a phone call between them the ground situation in Libya and Syria, as well as the dangers and chaos caused by terrorist acts which harm the interests of the two countries, disrupt the economic interests, and threaten the international peace security. And now to Yemen. Local fighters and army forces in Yemen wrestled 2 military bases from Houthi forces overnight, residents and officials said, building on a week of gains against the country's dominant faction. The advances come a day after Yemen's government declared the key southern city of Aden liberated, and their biggest victory yet in a Saudi-led air campaign, a civil war that has raged almost 4 months and killed more than 3,500 people. Saudi-backed Yemeni forces backed up by airstrikes seized the Labuza army base in the Lahj province, north of the port city, and the headquarters of the 170th Armored Division in eastern Shabwa province, some 230 kilometers away. Residents said the sporadic clashes continue today inside Aden as local fighters aim to root out remaining Houthis. Officials in the anti-Houthi forces say the offensive was planned for weeks and benefited from training and arms deliveries from Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. In a presidential decree, Yemen's exiled leader Abdurrahman Mansour Hadi in Riyadh named Aden's May a thoroughfare after Saudi Arabia's King Salman today as a gesture of gratitude. Residents said the Houthi forces and their allies in Yemen's army made an attempt to regroup and take back northern flanks of Aden yesterday, firing rockets at the Khor district. Their push was repelled, anti-Houthi fighters said, and an offensive backed by airstrikes is underway to take Anad air base, one of the Yemen's largest, 60 kilometers north of Aden. And now about Daesh in Iraq. The U.S. military said today that the United States and its allies have bombarded the terrorist Daesh group in Iraq with 23 airstrikes hitting the militant group near Tel Afr and Ramadi. Referring to the militant groups as Daesh, Colonel Wayne Maruto, Chief of Public Affairs for the Combined Joint Task Force, said in a statement, "When coalition assists detect and positively identify Daesh targets, we strike them relentlessly, and our strikes exact a heavy toll on this brutal enemy. Nearly half the strikes hit targets near Tel Afr, where they destroyed a terrorist Daesh group's building and vehicles and damaged tactical units, staging areas, weapons caches, and command and control center, according to the military. 5 strikes near Ramadi destroyed extremist Daesh group explosive devices, vehicles, and fighting positions, while also hitting tactical units," and the military said. Separately, the U.S. military said coalition forces also launched 8 airstrikes in Syria, with almost 5 hitting targets near Al-Hasaka. And now we transfer to Iran's nuclear. Iran's President Hassan Rouhani said on the social media website Twitter that the country's nuclear deal had been welcomed by its neighbors. Rouhani wrote on his official English Twitter page that he expected a nuclear deal between the Islamic Republic and world powers would improve relations with its neighbors. Rouhani wrote on his official Twitter page, "No doubt deal will lead Iran to closer relations with its neighbors. Under the agreement reached on Tuesday, sanctions will be gradually removed in return for Iran accepting long-term curbs on a nuclear program that the West has suspected was aimed at creating a nuclear bomb." Iran denies it seeks a nuclear bomb. Meanwhile, Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei said today the nuclear deal with world power didn't signal any wider shift in Iran's relationship with Washington or its policies in the Middle East. The agreement struck this week was met with celebration in the streets of Tehran, as many Iranians anticipated it would allow the economy battered by years of sanctions to destabilize and make their daily lives easier. But Khamenei, who has the last word on high matters of state and had given his blessing to the nuclear talks, moved to dampen any speculation it would lead to a broader approachment with the United States. 5 civilians, including women, were injured when Pakistan troops opened fire along the border region of India's northern state of Jammu and Kashmir on the occasion of Eid al-Fitr today, said a senior police officer. It was the second ceasefire violation by the Pakistani army in Punjab district in the past 12 hours. Earlier in the day, Pakistan Rangers fired at 2 posts along line of control. India and Pakistan exchanged gunfire and mortar bombs along their disputed frontier on Thursday, killing 5 civilians and injuring more than a dozen. Pakistan said days after the leaders of the nuclear-armed rivals agreed on high-level talks. Majority Hindu India and Muslim Pakistan have fought 3 wars since becoming separate nation in 1947, 2 of them over Kashmir, which they both claim in full but rule in part. And now about Nigeria's Nigeria President Muhammadu Buhari will seek help in fighting militants across West Africa when he meets U.S. President Barack Obama in Washington on Monday. Washington quickly reached out to new President Buhari since his election victory in March and sent U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry to his inauguration to underscore U.S. interest in working with his government. Buhari vowed in April to make every effort to free more than 200 schoolgirls abducted by Boko Haram militants inheritance a year ago after becoming the first politician in Nigerian history to succeed a sitting leader by ballot. President Mahmoud Buhari promised to spare no effort to defeat militants Boko Haram. The group has killed thousands in its push to carve out a caliphate in northeastern Nigeria. Tensions emerged between the former government of President Goodluck Jonathan and the Obama administration last year over corruption and human rights abuses by Nigerian military in its combat to crush Boko Haram. And finally, about Ukraine, fresh shelling continues for over some areas of rebel stronghold Donetsk in Ukraine's east despite ceasefire. Local residents say the shelling has recently intensified and that the humanitarian situation becomes worse. A group of residents gathered today for a meeting with a local official as people say they aren't getting any support from rebel authorities, although shelling can be heard daily in the Kharkiv district of Donetsk. Some local residents say they cannot leave as they have no other place to go. The head of local administration, Valentin in Lavinchko, said people would leave as the authorities provide accommodation for those ready to move. Many houses in Kivskaya district, which is not far from Donetsk city airport, had been damaged or destroyed throughout over a year of conflict between pro-Russian separatists and Ukrainian army. Fighting between pro-Russian separatists and Ukraine's army has eased in the past few months, but the conflict is far from over and some analysts expect years of low-level fighting. More than 6,500 people have been killed since the conflict broke out in eastern Ukraine in April last year. Attacks have lessened since a peace agreement was brokered in Minsk, Belarus 5 months ago, but both sides accuse each other of violations. Ukraine and Western government accuse Russia of aiding the rebels' military in the conflict in the east. But Russia denies arming the rebels and blames the crisis on Kiev and the West. My audience, that is the wrap-up of our top stories for today. For much more, you can check our website www.الكرامة.tv. Thanks for watching us. My greeting, Rانيا البليدي.